So today we are talking to Analogical, the poet, who is from Staten Island. He is an artist and he recently dropped a new album, and we are going to get into that and a whole bunch of other things. So first off, let us know, like, what was your upbringing like, coming up?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I grew up on Staten Island, New York. It was rough at first because we um, lived in the projects, right? So the projects, you always kind of hear stories about New York
Right.
projects, different rappers, but it was really for me. I was a kid living in the projects, so I don't really have those same stories. So, being a kid and growing up African, Staten Island is it's not the how would I put it? Um, Staten Island can be pretty racist. Let's just put it out there, right? So
Right.
I don't want to go dark with the interview, but yeah,
I,
so definitely experienced some things growing up on Staten Island that really
mhm.
kind of molded me into who I am. Growing up African, of course, things were completely different, like food, um, church. So that's always had a big impact and an imprint of who I am because that is my childhood. But yeah, I was one of those kids that kind of bounced around from different areas. So from Park Hill Projects, growing up there, the cool thing as a kid was that was kind of the height of Wu Tang. So like when you guys kind of experienced Wu Tang around the world, I was really experiencing those things as a kid.
Oh,
So parents were always like, "Don't sag your pants, don't do that, don't go
mhm.
here." They really try to keep me sheltered from that world for a really long time, actually.
Mhm.
Rightfully so as a kid. But then from Park Hill, we moved to Port Richmond, which is what I really consider home. That's where I went to school. Everything was done in Port Richmond.
Yeah.
So Stat's my home. I love it forever. I take
Mhm.
the good and the bad that comes with it. But yeah, that's pretty much my upbringing.
So you came from a two-parent home.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, we have something in common. So did I. So yeah,
Yeah,
you always like getting sheltered. That is, I think, with me, that was the hardest part because you want to explore, you want to get out
right,
and do your own thing,
right,
But
right. And and it's I probably wouldn't. I'm not probably. I wouldn't have it either any other way. The way my parents raised me.
right,
But as a youth and adolescent, you're like, yo, you want to go here, you want to cut school, you want to do this, you want to do that, because that's what everyone else around you is doing.
right.
And don't get me wrong, I definitely dabbled in some of the wrong things, if that makes sense. But
Hmm.
outside of that, nah, my parents did a really good job. Definitely set an example for me to when I have kids. I want to make sure I raise them the right way.
Right. Okay, now let's talk about this album that you have out. It's called Theory Weight.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us a bit about it because I did get a chance to listen to the album. And now I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but to me, your flow, like some of the songs, kind of reminded me of Eminem. And I don't know if you ever heard that before, but it really did, and it was real creative. The
I
album,
appreciate that. That's a huge compliment. Thank you.
yeah, like it's different, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to sit down and talk to you because your album, your music is like a breath of fresh air, really, And yeah, but tell me about the project. What were
Yeah.
you?
So the journey's been a long journey because I've always like rapped forever. So like lunchrooms, cafeterias, bodegas, corner stores, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But during the pandemic, when the pandemic happened for everyone, um, a lot changed, right? So like I was really trying to find myself again, and I ended up dropping an EP, a couple singles. So what I was doing is I was promoting my singles and EP that I dropped originally while doing spoken word poetry. So I got a chance to go to this spot in New York because I always travel back and forth called New Eureka, and I performed there spoken word. Spoken word. And the ferry ride now with the ferry is like if you want to get to the city from Staten, you hop on a boat, 30-minute ride, it takes you back and forth.
Mhm.
So while I was on the boat coming back from the performance, which I really like, I did my thing and I was like, I'm super introverted, so I don't really boast a lot, but like it was a good feeling to have the crowd be like, yo, this is popping.
Right.
So on that boat ride back to the island, I was like, yo, like I'm feeling on this high right now. So the first song I actually wrote was Fairy Wave, and I wrote that back in like 2016, 2017, because I was on my way back to the island. I was off this high of like yo, like I really did my thing and I really want to put the island on.
Right.
So that thought right there kind of stemmed to like how many different times have I rode the ferry, you know, being logical, being emotional, just having all these various thoughts. And, you know, a lot of times Staten Island gets clowned for having the ferry because nobody's gonna get on the boat to come to the island because there's not a lot out there. So I
Right.
really wanted to brand the idea that like the ferry ain't that bad, you know what I mean? Like
Right. Ooh.
it's a staple for the island. It's for us to get back to the city and back. And there's a
Yeah.
bunch of people on the island who commute to go to work, to do whatever they need to do back and forth. So like with the ferry rate idea, it was really just a collection of different thoughts that I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to express on an album while I was waiting for the ferry to go back and forth. So
Got
that's the idea behind the ferry weight concept. When you listen to the song Ferry Weight, that's the
it.
whole concept of it. But the songs kind of change in different topics. And I don't think one and two are the same because I really wanted to have different thoughts and different sides of me be expressed if I'm up or down mentally. You get to see it on the album and enjoy the roller coaster that is the ferry, right? So that's why it's called the ferry weight. So I hope people, you know, get to grasp it and take that in and hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the Eminem comment, like, that's crazy because like I've heard that before. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I have, and but also Eminem's one of my biggest influences with a bunch of other people, of course, which we'll get into.
Well, it makes sense now. See, I knew I wasn't crazy.
No, you're not. No, you're
I'm
not.
like, yeah, I'm like, yo, he reminds me of like Eminem a little bit.
I
That's crazy.
appreciate that. I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I really love artists that stand out, that do it at a high caliber.
Mm-hmm.
Eminem's one of those people who are like, disregarding the topics, the actual style, the cadence, the flow, the wordplay, just the how serious he takes lyrics has always
Yeah.
like, inspired me to be like, all right, I don't want to just rap from A to B. I want to make sure that if I'm rapping, there's little things within the words and the pockets that you guys get to hear, and be like, all
Mhm.
right, well, like this guy's taking this serious, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever ghost written for anyone?
No. Now
Okay.
the album, everything I pretty much wrote for myself. Outside of there was a girl on the album. Her name is Rebecca Irene.
Mm-hmm.
Her and J Vibe are actually. It's crazy because they're from Boston, and I met J Vibe on up and coming project that Ghostface Killer was hosting. We were both on there, and he put me on to Rebecca. So I wrote the hook for her to sing because like as much as I can rap, I'm not singing, and that's never been my thing, and I wouldn't put y'all through that. So I always look
Mm-hmm.
for other people who can kind of make the vision come to life. So I wrote the hook for Downfall, which is on the project. But outside of that, I've never really officially ghostwritten like a 16 or a 32 for like another rapper.
Okay. I think you would definitely be good at
I
that.
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And I saw that you had Sheik Luch on the intro.
I did. Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. Yeah, she
I
from the
appreciate that. Yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah. So if you want the story behind that, so back to the pandemic, I dropped the EP, right? It was called The Bar Tricks. And honestly, like, you know, between like depression and between like just being to myself, because I worked for Best Buy. So Best Buy bounced me back and forth a lot. So I was in Florence, South Carolina during the pandemic, which there's nothing out in Florence. So when the pandemic happened, there was literally nothing to do. So that's why I was like, you know what? Let me not be stuck in my head. Let me write the bar trick. And that was the EP. So at the beginning of that year, Jadakiss hit me up. Now I'm gonna
Mm,
be completely honest with you. I
okay.
I didn't think it was him at all.
Really?
Yeah, because like you always hear a lot of things like, oh yeah, you know they be scamming, and you see things, and then you know, and me sometimes like I have a self doubt that I carry sometimes. So I'm like, why would he be hitting me up? Like that ain't real.
I saw that he was he showed you a lot of love on his stories. I seen it on Facebook, on his page, and on his Instagram
Yeah,
story.
he's
Really,
been rocking with me since
I,
the Star Tricks, which is crazy. So like between conversations, reaching out, especially me, like I'm not a vet at this, so I'm still learning the ropes.
mm,
So what better person to ask a question than Jadakiss, right? So for me, it's just like he's definitely been like I want to say close to a mentor for me, to where it's just like, hey, I like what you're doing, but this is what you need to do, right? So, and I've been taking his advice every step of the way. So,
wow,
with working with him and him giving me guidance, he was able to get Sheik Luch to do that for me.
wow,
So that's how that came about, and I
that's
was really caught off guard by it because I sent him the project and he sent me a few things back, and Sheik
mhm.
Luch did that out of love. So for real.
That's really nice. Yeah, that's my favorite rapper. So
Okay, all right, all
that
right. I'm a huge
That's
Fox fan.
that's decent. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you that for that album and that whole that it really um was an inspiration and the stories that you told I could tell like you really put your mind to it. You know what I'm saying?
I
And
appreciate
and it kind of gave me, I want to say, you know how Nas is like a storyteller in a sense.
that. You
You know, it kind of
know,
went wow. What?
I
What?
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, because it kind of took me back, you know, like so when he first started and stuff like that, like his music and all that. So it, thank you, because like I said, it was a
I
breath of fresh
appreciate it.
air.
It's funny now is another person, like that. Someone for me, like I feel like, uh, especially with the elite MCs, what
Mm-hmm,
they do really well is they have so many different weapons in their arsenal of how they rap. And one thing from Nas that I've always enjoyed is the storytelling aspect. So for
mm-hmm.
me, like when you say that is like you're reading my mind, like it's
That's the type time you were on.
yeah, like I really like learn a lot. Like I'm a real active listener, so
Mm-hmm.
I listen to artists. I really listen to what they're saying.
What they're saying, and that's what with your music, you really have to listen to what you're saying, and it's really dope.
Exactly. So
Yup,
like it may not be like I don't want to
a
say
pop, like
yeah,
a
like
hit.
I feel like analogy wise, like there's like fast food music and then there's also like high gourmet music. And a lot of
Mm-hmm,
times people like to, go to fast food places, right? So the short stuff, the stuff that you really don't have to take time to digest,
mm-hmm.
that's not really what I'm trying to do. Like if I'm going to tell my story, I want to tell it to a point where like how the elites told their stories that inspired me. Um,
Right.
and Killer Hill Baby was one of those things for me to where like I wanted to make sure like people understood that like with me growing up in the projects and being a Killer Hill baby, literally like a baby in Killer Hill, that's what that song kind of told and telling that story about me and my upbringing, my first fight, me not really being prepared for like hood situations, right? Because like I was a really like nice kid to be honest with you, so
Right.
like certain things that I didn't really connect with. So growing up as a kid, it was like, nah, you got to learn the way of how to
Mm-hmm.
live,
Of the
right?
street.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
my dad was always that type of person, but nah, like you can't do this, you can't do that. Like this is what you got to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
some hits, you got to hit him back. Like he was always that person for me. So like,
Yeah.
yeah. So as a kid, like Killer Hill Baby kind of tells that story a little bit of how I like matured into an adult. But Killer Hill did that for me. Like I wouldn't have the grit and tenacity that I have now if it wasn't growing up in the projects.
Right. Wow. Now, what were some of the challenges? Like, do you have any challenges, like, in the industry, like, that you are currently facing or maybe faced, you know, years prior?
No, I don't think there's any. Well, at least nothing pressing yet, right? Because I'm still growing as a person and
Okay.
artist. But there's really learning. Honestly, where I'm at right now is not to say like the project was easy, but this is what I love doing, right? So it feels easy. Like going to the studio, writing, performing. That stuff is what I love doing, so that won't change. But there's like so many different facets of music that like, all right, cool. How are you promoting your music? How are you
Mm-hmm.
marketing your music? Like, how are you getting to the masses, right? Like, are you strategically attacking getting a fan base, right? So those are things like, from Jada to like listening to different podcasts and different people, like it's where I'm getting better at now. And honestly, like working at Best Buy, I've been at Best Buy for 14 years. So like I've always been able to market product and sell product. Like I can sell my ass off. So now the difference is how do I sell me, right? And that's
Right.
like I'm
That's,
learning now strategically how to attack that so I can get
mhm.
my music out there. Because I think it's a really great album. Like I love my work, but at the same time, like it may fall on deaf ears if I don't build that muscle in marketing and promoting.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Now let me ask you this. Now just to switch lanes a little bit. I hear you talk about the support that you've gotten, and people reaching out to you in the industry. Why do you think it's so hard, like for females in the industry to get along and collaborate and just support each other versus when you have, males in the industry, it seems like they can get along a lot more than females? Like, what do you think is that barrier with females?
I'm not a female, so I can only give my perspective on what I see.
Right, and that's all we want.
Right. So I don't want to be like, get
Yeah.
anything like that. This is my perspective. But I think, a lot of times when we look at hip hop, we look at it as a male dominated sport, right? Uh,
Okay.
when reality, we're in 2022, that is far from the case. But I
Hmm.
think that a lot of times with females, they look at it as, like only one female can have the top spot in a male
Oh,
dominated sport.
okay.
And I think that mindset stems from a lot of different things, like society, the fan base, like even a lot of times, like when you watch a lot of interviews and they say who's your top five, like it's a rare occasion as a female in your top five, and like I'm just like, dude, like for instance, Missy Elliott's in my top five. Like she's one of my favorites. Like from childhood to like where
Hmm.
she is now, being in the Songwriter Hall of Fame. Like she's a beast with the pen, right? And she's in my top five. So I think the mindset sometimes is just like only one female can have the crown in a male dominated sport, to where in reality females can easily run game as well as guys can. Like there's so many female artists, regardless of his conscience, fast
Hmm.
music, whatever type of music, like they're heavy hitters. So um, I think everyone, needs to be more cohesive, but I think females especially need to be more cohesive. So it sucks to see like when a female's beefing with a female because, off a rumor or something that's like, nah, like y'all too great and established in the game to even be petty.
Right.
So I think it's just a mindset that we have to, and guys need to help out with that too, is shift the culture to like give females more opportunities, but also at the same time, like put a female in your top five, dog. Like what are we talking about?
Yeah, and you know what? I never thought about that. Like, we really, when people ask, who's in your top five,
So it's always guys, and like,
it
and
really
it,
is. You know what? You pointed that out. I never really realized that,
so
and that's
it's always guys because we're programmed to be like, yo, it's
that's
a dominant
crazy.
sport, and I'm like, and all my boys, right? Like we talk. Top five is a barbershop conversation, right?
Uh
And
huh.
Missy Elliott's in my top five. Well, nah, B, you're bugging. I'm like, nah, I'm not, and I'm gonna show you why she's in my top five, right? So for me, it's like, you know what, you're right, because it's like you guys, we have to change the narrative that like females need their own bracket or they need their own space in hip hop or like they it just needs to be changed, right? And I think guys need to promote that more, but also females need to represent that more. And I think once those two things happen, then we good money.
Mm. Okay, that is. I definitely hear what you're saying. Now, just to switch gears,
Yeah,
do, do you think Kanye West should run for president next election?
not at all, not at all. No. But here, such a great question because like
Yeah.
the way my mind works is that like Biden, Trump, like I don't think any of these guys should be president. That's just me.
Mm,
So the
right.
hard part is when you make it a joke, because that's how I feel it is sometimes a joke. Then people like Kanye feel like, hey, if this person can do it, I can do it because I'm the richest XYZ in the world. And for me, it's just like, nah, B, that ain't it. That's not it. And I know like there's real people probably in Kanye's corner that are telling him what's up. It
Hmm.
comes down to if he chooses to listen or not. But like
Right.
that's not what we need at all. Like that's not what we need. That's just my point of view.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, no hate by the way. If he did
right,
it,
right.
like nah, I'm not, that's not what we need.
Yeah, maybe it sometimes when you reach a certain level of success, it makes you feel like you can do anything.
Correct,
So,
correct, correct.
so that's probably, why he feels like he would
Yeah,
be.
yeah, and it's not just him. A lot of famous people are guilty
Mhm.
of having an influence or are following.
Right.
So it makes them feel that like they can speak on something that's not relevant or they're not an expert at because they have this fan base or they have this following. But really, it's kind of like, look, if you're gonna get educated around a topic, get educated around it and then speak on it. But that just
Mhm.
don't speak on it because you're famous. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of times with Kanye, it's like, I have all this money in the world, so I can do whatever the hell I want to do. And it's
Right.
like, that's
Yeah,
that's that's not it.
got you. Now, in 5 years, 10 years, what pretty much where are you trying to go with your career? Just write music, try to be a writer for others? Where do you really see your career taking off? Because like I said, I think you're real creative. Like I really can see you making like something, I don't know, like something within, I don't know, but
I got you. No, I appreciate that. I feel.
yeah, like he can write for a cartoon or
Yeah. I feel
like
like so what I love is hip hop, right? And when I
mhm,
look at a lot of artists who got into hip hop and then they switched lanes and they extended their
yeah,
so for instance, like Method Man, one of my favorites, right? Some
hmm,
kill the mic for years, but also can like kill you on the acting as well too, right?
yeah,
Same thing with LL Cool J, like body of mic, one of the greats, right? But also at the same time, like will kill you with the acting. So like, and there's a lot of other people, like even like I was just talking to my boy, I don't know if you know T Grizzly is out of Detroit, but T
mhm,
Grizzly was doing an interview because he came out of Detroit and now he's on Twitch gaming, and he just made like six figures last month all playing video games, right? And I think that the trick, honestly,
mhm,
is to do what you love, which is what I'm doing. And then
mhm,
once you build the brand to a point where you have people that will follow you left, right, up and down, no matter where you go, I think then I'll be able to find out what my next step is and what I want to do. Because I do want to actually, do like voiceovers. Like that's something that's always interested in me.
mhm,
I do want to write. I was actually thinking about writing a movie. Like I have all these ideas, right?
yeah,
But I feel like when the time calls, I'll know when to get in that bag.
right.
So right now, like as we speak, I'm working on my second album, and I'm dropping that this summer. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so like I always plan ahead. I try to make sure I'm always busy. Um,
Mm,
yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now. So
that-
like
yeah,
I'm gonna keep pumping this music out. I've had a lot of people giving me great feedback. A lot of
mhm,
people not like it. That's completely fine. That's expected. But like music's where I'm at. So 5 years from now, I definitely want to be more established. I definitely want to make sure everyone knows who Analogical the Poet is at this point. Um,
right.
Label or no label, not sure depending on where that takes me.
Mhm.
But that's kind of where I'm focusing on right now. My next step is just keep hitting everybody with this music and don't stop.
Got you, got you. Now, like, are you planning on doing any shows? Like any live shows?
Yeah, so it's funny because if if time would have coordinated, I would have been up there. But
Mhm.
I literally was just in Staten from like July till September, and I knocked out a show and on Staten. I knocked out two shows in Jersey. I knocked out one in Philadelphia, and it's
Oh,
crazy.
that's where I'm from. I'm from Philly.
I was in North Philly like for a week.
What?
Like,
I
yeah,
didn't know.
yeah,
Wow.
North Philly. It was
That's crazy. I definitely
I
want
can't
to
remember the venue, so I don't want to butcher the name.
hear.
But
Okay.
now North Philly showed so
That,
much love.
wow.
Yeah, North Philly showed so much love because there's always like that thing between New York and Philly. So when I was
Hmm.
there, I was like, oh man, I don't think they're gonna fuck with me or feel me like that. Sorry, pardon my French. And nah, they showed the kid so
That's the
much
thing.
love. To the point where I
Wow. That's
was
deep.
telling my boy on the phone because he couldn't make it. I was like, yo, I got to come back out to Philly. He was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like,
Let
Philly
me
was
know the
a vibe.
next time you come back.
Yeah, facts. Philly was a
Because
vibe.
I'm definitely in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So the most recent show I had was in Charlotte because now I'm back in North Carolina.
Hmm.
That's where I work and that's where I live. So I had a show about a week ago in Charlotte, and I'm still planning things out. It's just that work is getting busier, and then also the holidays is about to pick around the corner. So like for work, it's prepping for that. But now I'm always gonna have shows. I always post on my IG. So that's why I share most of my information. That's where I'm most active. So if I'm gonna be back up top very soon.
Okay. Okay. So when did you move down to North Carolina?
So I moved down officially in 2012.
Hmm.
It was abrupt because like I was on the island by myself because at this point like I think it was like 18, 19. My parents are a little bit older, so they moved to Florida because they retired. I had a sister out in Brooklyn, and I had a sister who went with them, right?
Hmm.
So like it got to a point where living on your own in New York wasn't no game as a kid. And back then I was like, I'm gonna be in New York. I'm gonna be alright. Like I'll be fine. Nah,
Right.
you know what I mean? So like I had to really like become a man really quick because I wasn't at 19. So
Right.
like around like 2012, 2013, my sister who was in Florida hit me up.
Mm-hmm.
She was just like, yo, we hate it here. So like we're looking at someone to move. I'm like, you gotta let me know because like I've been eating like tuna fish and sardines. Like I'm struggling. You know what I'm saying? So she was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, we looking at Charlotte, North Carolina. Take a look. Da 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 da. All right, cool. So I started took a look. I found a spot. I was still with Best Buy then, so I transferred and I moved out here like 2012, 2013. And yeah, like Charlotte's definitely been another impact on my music as well too because like, you know, Charlotte never really, for me at least, this is coming from New York, didn't really have that guy. So when it got down here, you see people like the Baby, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
taking off, and like the whole city's behind him. Like stuff like that for me is inspiring because like he's someone who came out the mud. He's someone who's did it in his city, and he reps Charlotte heavy. So when I see that from afar, I'm like, oh man, like I can definitely do that for Staten because like when you talk to a lot of New York people, it's like y'all got Wu Tang and that's it. And that's the thing they always say. Like y'all got Wu Tang.
Yeah.
Around if I'm in Queens or Brooklyn, it's like y'all just got Wu Tang. And there's so many talented artists that come out of Staten, but their voices aren't heard because same thing, marketing and promotion. So for me, it's like that muscle is what I've been flexing and been really getting better at. So that
Mm-hmm.
y'all gonna hear me out of Staten. So, but yeah, Charlotte's also had a huge part of my transition to becoming a man. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just because living there, it's been great. But I always bounce back and forth. New York's my home. Just Charlotte's my second home.
Got you, got you. And so you do most of your recording in North Carolina, or?
Yes, yes. Got a chance to meet like a crazy studio, crazy people. It's Maximus Studios. They're also in Charlotte, which not right outside the city. It's called Pond, but it still feels like Charlotte. And met the team there. And one thing that attracted me to go there and really record professionally, as I did my research, I was like, oh man, like Rick Ross has been here, Jadakiss has been here,
Mhm.
Baby and his team has been here. So they
Oh,
really have a real, hey, we've worked with the clients that you hear, we've worked with them before. And then my engineer, his name is Killswitch, super dope, like God level stuff. I met him, and it's crazy how, God works. He used to work at Best Buy and no idea who he was. Like no idea. We didn't talk. We didn't vibe. He kind of did his
mhm.
thing. I did my thing. And when I seen him, I was like, "Yo, you look mad familiar." He's like, "Yo, you look familiar." After like 3 or 4 or 5 sessions, it was like, "Yo, we both worked at Best Buy," which is crazy. So he's like my personal engineer. He's someone that I trust with any of my music. So even when I'm like, "Yo, like do your thing," I'll record it. I'll send it to him. And like even like when you listen to Killer Hill Baby, all the switches at the end, that's
Mhm.
him. That's not me because I'm not creatively from a sound perspective. Like I can write my ass off, but like I can't necessarily like tweak it the way he does it. And
Right.
and I know God put him in my life because he's like, yo, I like what you're saying, but this is how it's gonna sound. And he's the
Okay.
one that does that for me. So that relationship has been dope. I like to give him their credit where credit's due. And he mixed and mastered the whole entire album that you heard from beginning to end. So yeah.
Got That's so okay. Well, let everybody know where they can find you at, on social media.
Sir. All right. So once again, I am Analogical the Poet. You guys can follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. It's also Analogical the Poet on Facebook, if you want to follow me there as well too. On Twitter, it's Analogical Poems, so Poems. You can follow me there as well too. And I'm getting into the TikTok thing. I'm trying. I'm really trying to
Mhm.
do this, but I'm also Analogical Poet on TikTok as well too. So I can kind of shed love and shed light on all platforms, love and light on all platforms. But IG is gonna be where I'm most active. So you DM me, I'm gonna respond. We'll chop it up. I'm super low key. I ain't no celebrity. Like working with new artists. I love working with people who have vision and have a plan. So like, yeah, that's Analogical the Poet.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and
Thank you for having me.
I will be looking out for your shows.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Definitely.
Appreciate you.
All right.